Hey, welcome in everyone to a new episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm your host, Justin Blair. Just like FC Cincinnati, we're looking at a rotated lineup this week. We'll see how the show goes. I'm really excited about the stars aligning. The host, the gaffer, may not be up to snuff tonight, but I know we have supreme talent on the field. First off, we have Jose. Jose's coming in, logging a lot of minutes lately. So, Jose, I appreciate you hopping on.
He's like our junkie.
I'll make sure I'm not on too often so I don't, bore everybody. But thank you.
No, I think Jose, I think it's been great. Obviously, there's been a ton of midweek matches to start the season with the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and I really, really don't know how we would have done it without you joining in these podcasts. So we're forever grateful.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. And then first time, we got Kristi Bridgwater. The Kiwi, is it Kiwi? I always get that one mixed up.
Yeah, it's Kiwi. It's
Kiwi.
People like to pronounce it like Kiwi, but
yeah,
I don't know. That one's my married name, so I'm not all that worried about it.
There you go. Kristi Bridgwater has been doing a fantastic job with social media content and doing interviews over on our YouTube channel. So, Kristi, welcome in tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And then last but not least, we have probably one of the most eccentric people that we have at CST, but he brings a lot of big ideas and has been a big part of moving the ball, moving the needle in these early stages of the season. We want to bring in Cliff Adams. Welcome in, Cliff.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. Here to learn and be witness learning and bring some positivity and generally create attraction to this community we have. I just hope I don't wind up resembling Dennis Miller when he tried to do Monday Night Football. But I appreciate being on tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Cliff. Before we jump in, as always, FCC's season is heating up, and so is the beautiful springtime weather. Apollo Home is here for UCSTers with a $29 cooling tune-up. Make sure your AC is running at peak performance before the heat really kicks in. Schedule your tune-up today at Cincinnati's trusted home service experts. Call Apollo Home and book online at apollohome.com and stay cool all season long. I will jump in and say I have used Apollo Home, and they're fantastic service. They were able to come out same day. We had some birthday party a couple years ago where somebody decided to flush a toy down the commode, and Apollo Home was out the same day, and we avoided catastrophe. So really appreciate those people at Apollo Home. So the real reason why we wanted to jump in here tonight is to talk about Tuesday. As painful as it may be, the Tigres match happened, and it is good evidence of perhaps what is to be expected for FC Cincinnati going forward. To kind of summarize the events, FC Cincinnati lost 1-3 at Tigres. Evander scored the only goal for FC Cincinnati. It was just one of those nights where you felt like maybe the stars had aligned and FC Cincinnati was going to advance, but it just didn't happen. Let's start with best and worst. Jose?
Well, I think my best is that the back line and the midfield held. Those onslaughts were just coming and coming from Tigres even before the goal. And then when the goal happened, they were overwhelming us, but the lines held. So to me, that was the best. But the worst was that then the lines collapsed. 8 minutes, 3 goals. It was sad to see and, frustrating to see because you guys were holding up so well. And then it just collapsed in a matter of minutes. So best and worst.
I think that's what a lot of fans, and I think if you would have asked Pat Noonan, I think that would have been his best and worst too, right? I think he kind of alluded to that in the post match.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Kristi, what was your best and worst?
I would say my best was seeing a really quality team goal. I think the way that that goal from Evander was assisted and created looked really good. Very fun to see in person for sure, in another stadium, in another country. The worst was probably the stadium announcing Lucho Acosta on the lineup. Probably could have used some help from him, and he never showed up. So that's kind of a bummer.
I bet you would have been floored if that had happened. If Lucho come running out of the tunnel.
Like would have been something else.
Cliff, what was your best and worst?
Well, I'll be weather topical. I think the best is I think the tornado is over. I mean, the soccer tornado. I don't know about the next 2 days here, but we get to clean up. You know, the tornadoes come through this team, and I think cleaning up. But right out of the gate, we played possibly the best teams. Philly currently sitting atop undefeated, and Tigres can probably win the whole thing. So it could just be bad luck, but we did so as we did this competition as a not fully formed and possibly not fully fit team. That's just my hypothesis. So I think that's the best. I think it's behind us, but we'll see with Saturday. And I know we'll talk about that later. The worst is that the team is resembling my hair. There's a lot of it, but it's thinning. And thin can mean either there isn't a player there or a player we're confident in. We saw that with Anunga against Philly, although he came back and did well with Toronto. Or a player hasn't had enough time to acclimate to a position. So Kubo coming on for Buka, and what does Obi do, in terms of picking up responsibilities off of that? And of course, Buka coming off, Santos not coming on for Denki, which was a head scratcher for me. So those are, I think that's my worst, is that we're thin. The good news on the backside of that, though, is that I don't think we came back with really any injuries. And I was expecting that. I think a lot of us were. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that anytime you can come out of one of those competitions, especially when it kind of went sideways, right? Because frustrations can pour out, and you may lose the locker room, or you may lose pieces just going in for a sloppy challenge and stuff like that. It was good to see FC Cincinnati kind of come out of that a little unscathed. My best was Obina Nwobodo, forever and always. Obi is the best in the entire world, bar none. Being the firefighter every single time for FC Cincinnati. The problem is that you can't clone Obi and just have him play on both sides, right? So gotta figure that out. My worst is not being able to sleep after the match. I know that's a simple one, but I could not go to sleep. I was pretty bummed out that FC Cincinnati had been eliminated. The press conference, I think, wrapped around 1 a.m. local time, or our time. So it was a long night, and Justin on 2 hours of sleep is just not good performing, Justin.
We'll call this a daylight savings game. Really,
yeah, exactly.
You're young. You can take it.
Yeah, the kids are younger, and they're more than keen to wake me up well before the Crows. Let's see. FC Cincinnati. So there was a couple points from the game that I really want to kind of nail down and talk about, because I know that the FCC fan base was really vocal after the match. If you hadn't seen or stay off social media, probably should stay off social media. I think there was some frustration venting from such a rapid collapse. But the first one that I wanted to talk about was a little bit of levity, a little bit of positivity. FC Cincinnati jumped off to that early lead with that beautiful dribble by Orishano going into the box, and then laying it off for Evander for the goal. Like, in that moment, what were your thoughts? Like, had your expectations for what this match would be, did it just change on a dime, or were you just elated that we scored, but you knew that it was coming?
I was elated, and I thought, okay, this is great. For a few seconds, I thought we can pull this off. But immediately I came down to earth, because I know the quality of Tigres. I know how they just go after their rivals. And I knew that in that stadium, the crowd was going to pump them up. So I was ecstatic for a few seconds. And then I thought, oh boy, here comes the onslaught. Now, can we withstand this onslaught? Can we see it through? But I was excited about one thing, though, seeing Orellano and Evander together, finally. I mean, that was fun to watch. Now, unfortunately, they couldn't maintain it the rest of the game. But for that one instance, I thought, that's the magic we need. So those are my feet, high and low.
There was definitely something there that it was a spark of, okay, we're going to keep seeing that relationship and connection is going to keep growing. And there's going to be more of that, which was like really awesome to see. But yeah, we scored that goal cautiously, optimistic, hopeful. But, and everyone said, Tigres has this quality. They've got great subs coming off the bench and that stadium is unreal. Nothing compares to what happened to what I saw in person. Like truly, the reaction was so quality from them to just push so much harder after we scored that it was insane to see. And then the stadium, which I'll talk about more in depth in a little bit, was an insane factor. Absolutely insane.
That's the beauty of this competition, isn't it? Right, being able to experience that. And then things seem to have shifted. I know Pat Noonan kind of mentioned that the gas kind of let off after that first goal. I think that was something that Evander had mentioned to Carter Chapley after the match. But one point that I think, at least for the fan base, felt like it was that turning point was when Pavel Buka got subbed off in the 59th minute. And it just felt like the dam kind of broke for FC Cincinnati. Maybe it was just like, what do we think that the correlation is like there, or is that just a weird coincidence that happened? Do you think that Pavel,
Justin, on the after the goal, I honestly, looking at the way they played right after the goal that we scored, I thought Pat had ordered it, because our line collapsed to a 5 and stayed there, parked. And it was a night and day situation where right out of the gate, we were really aggressive, very aggressive. But I agree with Kristi that it was almost like they suffocated that instantly. And I think they did that with the quality. But I do think there's correlation with Buka. But we got the answer from Pat today, and it's the one I expected. He made a few points in the press conference, and when he said our running numbers are the highest that they've been, and Pavel was subbed off with fatigue and tightness. And so my answer to that is: would you rather have had Pavel subbed off and him playing Saturday in the MLS, or something go wrong in a position where we're not exactly deep?
I think that he was gassed. I mean, he could not go on, and you could even see it on TV. Kristi, you probably saw it even more there. So I get the change, but I think Coach would probably be able to break this down, or maybe some of you. I just think there wasn't the tactical adjustments necessary when Kubo came in. Now, Kubo, we know he pushes, he's very passionate, he's very aggressive, and he's very active, and he brings a lot of energy to the field. But I'm wondering if there were some adjustments that need to be made, tactically speaking, because of that. And again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough to say he didn't make the adjustments. But thinking back, maybe that's what happened. Maybe I
saw a couple of things. Buka, I don't see him ever all the way out to the touch line, bringing the ball upward down the flank. That's a very unusual thing, but that's immediately what Kubo started to do.
Yep.
And so if he's going to go out wide like that, suddenly there's nothing in the middle except for Obi, right? And so that's we've spoken about that a little bit, but I agree with you that I really cannot stand pointing to a single player coming off, and there's 9 other people on the field plus the goalie. So I do think there's correlation, but I think what you're saying is most apt. Is that we better know how to adjust when a player comes on.
And I think that's kind of the key there as well, is when you take a player like Buka off the field, who's so interconnected to how everyone on the field runs, being in the midfield is such an important role that he plays. It's the entire team's responsibility to to change into a way that works without him. It's not just the player that's coming on. It's not just Kubo's responsibility to then try and play like Buka. It's the entire team's responsibility to adjust to play with who they've got on the field at that given time. And I think we did not do that well. I think that's kind of a product of it being early in the season. I mean, a lot of things happening with CONCACAF Champions Cup is, so different from what we're used to in MLS too. I think that made a huge difference. And that lack of ability to adjust quickly, I think definitely hurt us.
I definitely agree with you. I think, as Kristi alluded to before, I think you see it in other sports too, right? When that momentum swings and you're playing on the road and it gets loud in that place, this place is apparently El Volcan is legendary for how loud it gets. And people that may be more accustomed to like college football and stuff like that, stadiums like the Horseshoe and the Big House and stadiums like that, Neyland Stadium, when that momentum swings, it's difficult to come back. And when you got young players that are playing for the first time with each other, that seems like it could be a disaster. So for more on that atmosphere, I definitely want to pick Kristi's brain. I was like, when I heard Kristi was going down to Monterey, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to know everything about it. Because I'm like a geek for the match day experience. Like I'm one of those people that watch the away days and stuff like that. So Kristi, what was the pre-match like for the Tigres match?
So we actually didn't attend any of the supporter section pre-matches, just with the way that it worked out. We weren't obviously sitting in a supporter section. We decided to get tickets right behind our players' bench because they were very well priced. And so we didn't do a ton of the pre-match festivities. We went into the stadium, kind of walked around, got acquainted with it, but I could go on and on about the experience in the stadium. It genuinely, they call their fans incomparables because the incomparables, they mean it. It was amazing. I went to University of Tennessee. I've been to a million games in Neyland Stadium. I've been to several games in other SEC stadiums. I've been to NFL games. I've been to plenty of national soccer games, MLS games. Nothing in the US compares to what I experienced in El Volcan.
Wow.
Genuinely, their baseline was already so incredible. Their supporter section's amazing. Their drums are incredible. Their chants are so good. Their transitions seamless. A lot of stuff I saw that I would love to bring back to the Bailey. But their baseline is so good. And then they kicked it into a gear that I did not know existed. It was suffocating is the word that I would use. I can't imagine being one of our players on the field when they switched. They got a free kick on a foul right after their first goal, before their second and third, that you could feel the flip switch. It was it was so loud. We were in we're second row to the field. We've got families next to us. We've got grandparents next to us. Every single person in that stadium, not just the supporter section, every single person jumping up and down, knew every word to the chants, clapping, bouncing, just absolutely insane. And I can't imagine having to play under that.
Holy cow.
I am jealous, actually. I'm jealous. Even if it would have been a frustrating night, I am jealous. There's a screenshot that someone sent me of me on TV towards the end of the game. So we're down 3-1 at this point, and I'm just kind of looking around smiling because there's just it was inconceivable to experience something like that.
Were there any quiet parts in the stadium at all, or is it everyone?
No.
Wow.
Their baseline was already louder than basically any sporting events that I go to here. I mean, I'd say their baseline rivals Neyland Stadium against Bama. Okay. And then they kick it into that second gear, and it's just nothing is like that.
Awesome.
That's crazy. That's for those that may not be Neyland Stadium is like legendary in college football for being one of the most loud. I mean, it's like 100,000 plus
Yeah,
fans.
Neyland Stadium is 102,000 seats. El Volcan is only 40,000, and I think they maxed out at the game that we went to at 35,000 fans. So just
Holy
like
cow.
consider the like difference in number of fans and people there, and that El Volcan was still crazier.
I think I have a new bucket list. Hopefully, FC Cincinnati's not playing them next time. We'll maybe go down there for a Liga.
If you can ever go to a World Cup game for like the U.S. in this case, do so, because I went to one for Mexico in '86 when they hosted it. I gotta tell you, I have never heard screams so loud, so passionate for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and that it did not stop. It never wavered. It was crazy. And when we were there for like 2.5 days only, but we took Ubers everywhere, and we're talking to some of the people just kind of out and about, and everyone we talked to said, you know, the Rayados Stadium is the new stadium. It's really nice. It's modern, but they don't have the passion that the Tigres Stadium has. Like several Uber drivers told us this, because they would ask us like, what are you doing here? and so that was really kind of cool to hear, because then we heard all that going up to the game, and then we got there and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Holy cow.
That is awesome.
Very grateful to experience. Sad that we lost, but truly Tigres they've got a great quality roster right now, a great team. They're kind of doing a little Cinderella story with a player turned coach, which is exciting. And then with that fan base in that stadium, good for them.
Yeah. And when they get all their injured players back, that's going to be scary.
They're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Was so when you were up here in FC Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, up here in Cincinnati, you were able to go to the FC Cincinnati food and beverage tasting event. Did you sample the local fare when you were down at Tigres? Was there any like local beers or local food there?
Yeah, we did. We ate a lot of tacos. A lot of tacos. I ate tacos, I think, for almost every single meal. I got some really good chilaquiles as well. We didn't eat in the stadium, but they did have some good options. They do have like some, silly chains and stuff. They had a Carl's Jr. in there. But they do have some more like local regional Mexican food as well. I'm pretty sure I drank Tecate Light like the entire time. It was available everywhere, and it's a go-to for me. So definitely some good options, but they had, for a stadium that is that like old and historic, they had very good amenities. It seemed like they had built out the outside of the stadium to not like mess with the really old infrastructure, to add in more amenities for like food and beverage services, which was pretty cool to see kind of how they've made those adjustments over the years. And then on the way out, we got a parking lot hot dog that was one of the best things I've ever tasted in my life. So
wow. Okay.
You're adventurous. That's awesome.
That's awesome, Kristi. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's truly, and I know when this tour, like when FC Cincinnati first qualified, that's the excitement of this tournament, right? It's what Leagues Cup lacks, right? Is being able to share that experience somewhere very far away from home, sampling like how they do soccer in Liga MX, how do they do soccer in Jamaica, Honduras, the such. So that's really awesome that you got to experience that, and I think a lot of FC Cincinnati fans will maybe make that trip next time.
Yeah, we would love to. I would love to go again and take people around. Their fans were also incredible. They were so kind, and it seems like the Tigres fans are kind of known for that. I wasn't really sure what I was going to walk into. I've been to sporting events in other countries, and it's kind of always a little bit different. And people had said, soccer is so much more, life or death down there, blah, blah, blah. And I went down, everyone was so nice. And it seems like that's the common theme for Tigres fans in Liga MX as well. But yeah, people like, even before the game, people were nice to us. I think they were just kind of like confused and impressed that we were down there. And then we went up 1-0, and they were still very welcoming. And then of course, after the game, when they were a little happier than us, they were so, so nice to us though. They came up and wanted to take pictures with us. Truly did not have a bad experience while we were there.
I feel like
the people from the north, the people from the north, what we call norteños, they're known for being very open, very kind. So, but nonetheless, in a soccer environment, you never know what to expect. So I'm glad to hear that was a positive experience.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they were nicer than any Bama fans I ever met.
Kristi, I wouldn't mind you putting
Amen.
together a little Rick Steves. Like this feels like a Rick Steves how to go to Mexico and watch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well,
I wouldn't mind a little blog about that.
Not to do a shameless self CST promo, but I've videotaped almost everything, and there will be a vlog coming out when I get better at editing in the next 3 days.
I'm not going to say I knew, but I knew.
That's great.
Awesome, Kristi. Thank you so much for sharing that. So FC Cincinnati, despite the fun times, good vibes down there, unfortunately, for a second consecutive year, get bounced at the round of 16. A lot of fans have been speculating on social medias about what is the biggest factor for why FC Cincinnati has struggled in this tournament. This is our second consecutive year, but this is our second ever year in this competition. The tournament start time kind of hurts because it's right at the beginning of the MLS schedule. FC Cincinnati had to play 7 matches in 21 days. So that's insane when you think about it. The coaching decisions, like I know I saw some people commenting on Pat Noonan's substitutions and other tactical decisions in the match, or just like the lack of training together, right? You have a lot of pieces for FC Cincinnati that haven't had a lot of training days. I think if Anders had like 9 training days with the team, so that's just insane to think about. That you have somebody in such a critical position. But I just kind of want to open it up to you guys. What do you personally think is the main factor?
I don't think there's one main thing. I think all of those factors had something to do. The team hasn't trained together. I mean, we were hiring players at the last moment. So to me, that gelling piece has a lot to do with it. Then you've got all the matches. I mean, yes, you could argue that Tigres also has had a lot of matches, but they were at home. They didn't have to travel. So, that's another factor right there. The tournament start time. I mean, MLS teams are just getting started. So they're not in the form that Liga MX teams are. And I would put, I know I've been harsh on Pat because of the Buca decision and all that, but really, I would say that's the last factor. But all of them, I think, had something to do with it. But I think the biggest one to me anyway is that they haven't had enough time to train together and play together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, don't much to add there. That's really it. If you think continuity, right? I think about the Seattle team. Didn't Seattle win it or win it? Right. And so what kind of continuity they see between the last of their season and the first in that tournament? We did not have that. We had the opposite of continuity. We were hiring a player going into the first game of CONCACAF. So I think that's what has me positive, though. I think given all that, we did a commendable job of these past games. But continuity, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of those Seattle pieces are still on the team. So just a heads up on it. I don't think they do a lot of rollover on Seattle's team. And that's just part of doing business, right? If you're able to have success internationally, that doesn't always hit performance incentives that affect your budget. So that's something to factor in. And then I like just under the current MLS scheduling, do we think MLS will continue to have this excuse of CONCACAF Champions Cup comes right at the beginning of the season, or is it kind of worn out at this point? Like I know we just mentioned continuity for FC Cincinnati, but it's like at some point, is there a different excuse that the MLS can make for maybe the lack of performance in this competition?
I think there's been a lot of motion on rosters across the MLS due to all the differences in how they assemble players. We've seen Lucho go to Dallas and Evander come here, and we're not the only one. We've seen coaches replaced. Jim Curtin replaced it at Philly. And I think there's just been so much motion. I don't think that continues. I personally would get worn out if year after year we have to look at a half different roster again. This time last year, I was looking at Kip Keller on the back line, and so I really think that I don't see that continuing, but maybe others feel differently.
No, I think that makes sense as well. I think it's almost comparable to looking at like what the transfer portal looked like after NIL started becoming big.
Mhm.
Like you're just seeing moves nonstop during the off season, and I think that's not typical for like the past couple years. We haven't had an entirely new roster, starting, and it's just been there's been so much turnover and moving for so many teams in the MLS, and I don't think that's the norm necessarily. Now, I don't know if it will calm down or not. I mean, I think there's a lot more extended conversations to have about that when it comes to like salary caps and where people are recruiting from and things of that nature. But I do think that like excessive movement during the off season will always hurt the MLS in this tournament specifically, because you can't play well with no chemistry if your players can't train together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's, we've got a ton of people returning next year and we only move, one DP or something like that, I think that will make a difference. But I think it puts us at a disadvantage. I don't think it makes it impossible for MLS teams to succeed in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, though.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, if you make it past the round of 16, which we haven't yet, now you start having a chance, because now that the players have played more together, and now they're getting a feel for the tournament, especially for better teams. But the trick then is going to be, it's like that wall right now, for us anyway, that round of 16. But I think if any MLS team starts getting past the round of 16, then I think there will be a chance. I mean, there are several MLS teams that have gone beyond round 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Columbus made it to the final last year before everyone got dysentery, so that was awesome.
That's their excuse.
So and before we wrap a neat little bow over the Tigres match in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, what maybe it's the one thing that you're hoping FC Cincinnati gains from this experience, right? Is it something that the coach can take away and point at and say, hey, we need to get better here, or is it just maybe a measuring stick for FC Cincinnati? What do you think?
I don't know if it's within the coach's control, but just having all the roster decisions and contract issues resolved. Again, these are random variables. These are things that just happen. It's beyond the coach's control. But if there is something that the front office can do, let's nail this down and not be doing this at the very last moment. I know we had extenuating circumstances this year. I get that. But hopefully next year, we'll nail all that down beforehand. At least that's my opinion.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I think that the other big thing is just, I think every game we play at the beginning of the season needs to have a lesson with it. I mean, they need to be going back through all that film and looking over things. And with how many roster movements we did make on the offseason, I don't expect to start seeing consistency necessarily for a couple more weeks. But I think that we should see improvements every single game based on issues that we had in the games that we've already played. So if we, what our takeaways from the Philly game were should be starting to improve every single game after that. What our takeaways from the Tigres game were should be starting to improve every single game after that. And then in a couple weeks, if we're still seeing some of those major issues, that's when I start to worry.
Yeah, great point. That's
a great point. And speaking of getting back to training, and this is a shameless plug, the Beyond Exercise has been a great sponsor of Cincinnati Soccer. We're beyond thankful for them. They're the local physical therapy and fitness business that allows people to stay active and injury free. They have also helped with MLS Next, and FC Cincinnati Academy players with their health and performance needs. So check out their suite of services and Cliff.
Yes,
Cliff had the experience
at Beyond Exercise.
There you go. That's a Patreon live stream that we'll have that conversation about that experience, because I'm interested about that, those pseudo science, or maybe there is a lot of science into it. gobeyondexercise.com. Check them out. They're fantastic. Cliff raves about that experience, at least on our Slack channel. So then moving right along, we have Cincinnati Soccer Talk content galore. I hope you guys have been enjoying. We're trying lots of new things this season, trying to get a little bit more coverage. We have a bigger staff, so it's a little bit easier to be able to kind of manage the different tasks and roles and responsibilities. I know each of you have participated in it. I know Jose has been doing a great job with, coming on the podcast and being able to go around to different shows and kind of present FC Cincinnati to larger audiences. Cliff has been doing a fantastic job on Patreon with his Sunday morning thoughts. A lot of those have been bleeding into Thursday morning and Wednesday morning with this.
I get to sleep during the week now. This is good.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And then, of course, Kristi has participated in Orange and Blue Profiles. She is that food beverage short that you were able to put out. I think that's a fun little behind the scenes kind of look at what FC Cincinnati puts together. They do a lot of really class stuff to kind of get the word out there for the club, and those are really awesome ones. We had this week Jeff Tebbets on Jersey Swap had Anna Whitty. I have a hard time saying that name. She does a lot of great content for the USL Super League, NWSL, and Charlotte FC, and we would like to share a little bit of that video right now.
I think it's muted.
Unless everybody else is hearing it, but not us.
So that is a little flavor. If you guys, I hope you guys heard all of that. Sharing the videos. I don't know if the audio came through for everyone there. But it's really cool what Jeff does over there. If you guys haven't checked out Jersey Swab, bringing in media from all over. No sound came through on the video. I apologize. I am the worst host ever. You probably already knew that, but trying to figure out how these different things intertwine.
Daylight savings time, man. I'm telling you.
It's not daylight savings time. It's actually
a week-long thing, man. There's heart attacks and car crashes, and audio doesn't come through.
I grew up on Windows 98, so for me
oh my god,
for me to be able to sit here and even make this thing functional is
not to compete, but I grew up on Windows 3.1.
There you go.
Before that,
yeah. So,
hey, Justin, I want to tag on real quick to this.
I am old.
This content thing you're talking about. Because once upon a time, I was down in the chats with the folks, right? Annoying you guys while you were trying to do the show. And you were kind enough to occasionally put this up. Guys, I've been able to peel back the onion on these guys. There's not 8 people running this thing. There's 64. There's a small army of people that contribute to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. And all of them are extremely intelligent, well-informed, very talented people. I write my morning thoughts. I think I did a preview for one of the CONCACAF games, and there's an editor, Bridget, and shout out to Bridget, because it's just amazing to see. and I became more and more sort of exasperated at the notion that this thing isn't appreciated as much as it should be. So if you're within the sound of my voice and you're watching this, would you please go find a friend? It's like the gun and knife show down at the convention center. Bring a call a friend, bring an enemy, whoever. This is a great show. It's a great production, Justin, and I really appreciate your vision and the direction you're taking things. And certainly appreciate being on tonight. But I am astonished. I'm stunned and astonished and impressed by what goes on behind the scenes for this production.
And that big shout out to everyone that came before me, big time, and before us, right? Every one of us from day one, even with Subs and Brian and Brad and Yusuf, everyone has always been able to contribute in the way that they see fit. And that's what's made Cincinnati Soccer Talk so beautiful, is that we just try to present basically a blank canvas for anybody that comes on and joins our group.
Allow them to the founding fathers. It was like yesterday after the game, the Weigels were up in the Slack, right? It was like it was like the ghosts of coming through the hallway. They're like, "Ooh, wait a minute, the Weigels are talking," or Subs will come in, and I'm like, it's like when Optimus Prime was resurrected. It was really amazing to see that leadership come through. But they're still there, and that energy's still there.
Isn't that fun?
So rich.
That's something that, and we're working on some content to get out on Patreon, where maybe we'll do some of those throwback shows, right? Have maybe we can convince Soups to throw the mic on for one last rodeo. But that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. I had a few more sound bites, but until I can learn how the StreamYard fully functions, I'm gonna spare you with the awkward silence. So Brian Beadbach, thank you so much for editing this video. I will send that timestamp out. And then one last shout out that I really want to get out here is I want to get a shout out to Brandon Wolf. If you guys had the opportunity this past Tuesday to join the live watch along, Brandon does a fantastic job with that watch along. Brings a lot of the juice, a lot of the energy, sometimes literally the juice. The Pavel juice is something to behold there. But Brendan also does incredible work. All these pretty graphics that you're seeing all over the place. So we have a lot of great graphics teams. Kyra, Brandon, Kristi has even been able to throw her hat in. We have great people, Jay. But Brandon, I just want to give you a special shout out, man. You work incredibly long hours and you're always on top of it. And please keep these watch longs coming. And I hope for the one this coming up with this Charlotte match, I definitely will be joining the chat for that one. So be sure to check that out. And if you would like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can do so by heading over to our website at cincinnatисoccertalk.com/support. From there, you'll be able to sign up to our Patreon page or make a one-time donation using, I think it's Stripe is what it's called. So you could just put in, if you just want to pitch us some beer money for a week, go right ahead. A paid Patreon subscription gets you into our Growler Cup competition. We are 3 matches into round 1. There will be 3 rounds, so don't feel like you've completely missed the ship. There will be other rounds, and prizes are giving out toward the end of each of those. It's $5 a month, a small but a significant thing for Cincinnati Soccer Talk to be able to keep providing travel fees and compensation and be able to get equipment for CST folks. And then just wanted to close out, go to let me get my pretty stuff that Beatenbach was able to put together for us. The Charlotte FC match is coming up, and I'm kind of I don't know what to expect from this one, to be honest with you. Charlotte FC is 1-1-1 this season. They had the most recent loss to Miami, where they were scoreless. But since Dean Smith has joined, Charlotte FC, Charlotte has been the best in the league at goals allowed with only 40 goals in 37 matches. That is quite impressive. They're giving up more than one goal a match, but when you consider, the potency of some of these DP heavy front threes, that's pretty vast improvement for Charlotte, who was pretty leaky before Dean Smith.
Well, there's a big reason for that, Justin, and that's what I'm going to be centered on Saturday, and that's Kalina. A lot of people be watching what's his name, Ajimong and Zaha, and they're very entertaining and very potent, but Charlotte is getting outshot. They're getting outshot 18-7 versus Seattle, and similar with Atlanta. They're also getting outpassed by a lot, and so the stats aren't in their favor. But what really, I watched a lot of the recaps. Kalina is really a talented keeper, and I think if I wouldn't be surprised if we have some difficulty on Saturday in their house. Getting a ball by him. What I will say is that it's not going to be an 80-footer from Luka. It's not going to be a shot from outside the box unless it's well hidden. It's going to be another play like we saw against Tigres, where it's a laid-off pass across the box and somebody comes through. You've got to have him moving in a direction that's not the same direction as the ball to score. It's going to be very difficult, but that's the reason. Kalina is just solid.
Yeah, I would love to see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that. Kalina was class all last season, and I think that's probably been one of the most impactful pickups of recent MLS history. But go ahead, Kristi.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think I would really love to see us take advantage of our set pieces in this game. I think when you've got a keeper that's really strong, doing anything where you've got a lot of movement inside the box, a corner coming in with a touch off of someone's head and, a first touch tap into the goal, something like that, where he's moving a lot and his body just can't move as fast as that ball is going. I think that's going to be huge. I think that's something that has been a little weird for us this year to see. Our set pieces have been really hit or miss, I think. I would love to see some creativity in those moments.
Yeah, that's key. The creativity piece. That defense is solid, and they lost against my.
Looks like we lost Jose for a second. There. Go ahead, Jose. It was just 1 second. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. They lost against Miami because they blinked for like 2 seconds. Miami was already down to 10 players, and they scored. But their defense is very stout, as you already said. So FCC is going to require a lot of creativity from our big three to get through. Otherwise, like you said, there's not going to be an 80-yarder, or outside the box. It's going to have to be inside the box, and maybe some of the magic, some of that, instantaneous magic we saw at El Volcan could come through. If not, I'm hoping that we at least come away with a tie this time. That we don't break down in a few minutes. But as Cliff also said, right now, even though we got Zaha now, their strength is their back line. Mm-hmm. So our big three is going to have to get very creative to get through that, and then to Kalina. And I think those are going to be. Now, I am worried about fatigue. Our players are tired. Charlotte is going to be rested. Even though they played, I think it was on Sunday, still, they are way more rested than our guys. So fatigue could be a factor.
Yeah, particularly Zaha. Zaha had the birth of a child, I believe, during the beginning of the season. So he's only played 2 matches, was able to get a goal and assist in those 2 matches. Yeah. I want to focus on Zaha because I think that he has the potential to be one of the best players in the league this coming season. I think he does a lot to answer some of Charlotte's biggest problems last year, right? They just weren't able with Swiderski. They were never able to really have that magic on that transition and be able to score off of those because they kind of bunkered a little bit and then they would spring the trap. And Swiderski, with all the speed that he has, he just, for whatever reason, was a better poacher in the box than somebody that was just all out runner. So I just like, what do you think is probably going to be the key to marking I know we played with tired legs, and we may have not had the best 10-minute stretch in football history this past Tuesday. But what do you think might be key to kind of slowing down Zaha?
They got to press him.
Yeah,
they have to press him real close because that guy is really good dribbling, and he's fast too. So I think the press is going to be important. Now I don't know if that's Obi or a combination of Buka and Obi, or maybe Miles is really good on the press. He's very, very good on the one-on-one. But they have to do that. If they let him loose, he could create all kinds of problems for our back line.
And of course, didn't pick up on the audio there. I again apologize for that, but no, you were fine, Jose. I was talking about jersey swap. So Jeff brought up a really cool fact is that Zaha has actually scored against FC Cincinnati already with Crystal Palace. So he definitely has done it before. Hopefully we don't see it going forward.
We need the same team that was playing up to the point where we scored the goal with Tigres. It's a question of rest, and I do think the rest, but the absolute Denke's on the line because he's gone the following game. So we don't have him for Atlanta. So if he's gonna, I need a parting gift, Kevin.
So who's gonna replace Kevin? Who's gonna replace him?
Right. Well, that's
Santos.
And you know what? We talked about that too, why he wasn't subbed in. And I tell you what, I'm an old man. I feel like Santos has got old man quads and legs. And so maybe we were preserving that for Charlotte, but or for the upcoming matches. But Kevin, I'm sorry, but I'm okay. I'm okay with Kevin not KD. We call him KD. I'm okay with what happened with Tigres. I'm okay with that. Could have performed better, should have performed better. I'll give you one. But this is the game. You really have to dig one out before you take off for national play.
Yeah. Does anybody want to attempt to give their Growler Cup prediction for this match? Or are you like I might be afraid of the blowback? I think this is going to be.
I still gotta think about it because I have been really bad this year.
Yeah,
I've been lousy.
I don't. With all due respect to FC Cincinnati, I think this one goes 0-2. In my opinion, I think this is just too much bouncing around. Too many matches. You're going to have a pretty good crowd down there in Charlotte, and that disappointing performance against Inter Miami when Charlotte legitimately feels like they are the first or second best team in the East. Whether that comes to fruition is a whole completely different thing. But that place is going to be packed, and that place is going to be wanting it. And with our front three playing significant minutes down in Tigres, I just wonder where the goals are going to come from. So I'm going to say.
But Charlotte had a heck of a time, even with 10 men. Miami just held them at bay.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a different Miami, right? I think they've hit another gear. Now whether the Barca 4 can stay together and keep their legs for a whole season, that remains to be seen. Yeah. But I think that a lot of the problems that were plaguing Inter Miami have been solved. I think they brought in good pieces, but that's a story for a different day. What about you, Kristi? Do you have a prediction for this match?
I think this feels like a 1-1 draw. Mm-hmm. I don't see it being a super high scoring game. I hope and have faith that we make some much needed adjustments, but I think Charlotte's super strong as well, and playing away is always a little bit more difficult. So I feel like this is a 1-1 draw.
I could see that. I think this is one of those games that we might look back at the end of the season, and maybe not, but at least early in the season, it feels like this is going to be one where we look back and say, maybe FC Cincinnati would be hosting a playoff match, or Charlotte would be hosting a playoff match if this result would have came down for them. Before we get to our final thoughts, I just want to mention that if you'd like to reach out to us, obviously in these streams, you can join us in the comment section. You can tweet at us or X at us or whatever the heck that is at Cincy Soccer Talk. You can get us on Blue Sky at Cincy Soccer Talk. You can get us on Facebook, or you can email us at feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. All right, final thoughts. We kind of like to throw this one out to whatever's on your mind. So let's start with Jose tonight. Jose, what are your final thoughts?
Well, disappointing, obviously, that we got knocked out again. But we've already been through. Here's what needs to happen next year. If we do get into the CCC again next year, let's get those contracts figured out. Let's get everything settled. Let's go in with a team that is settled. We're still going to be at a disadvantage because we'll be at the beginning of our tournament, but I think we have a better chance. Charlotte, I do think, kind of predicting a little bit my Growler Cup thing, I do think we have a chance for 3 points, but it rests on having speed up front, having the big three come through, getting very creative with that stout back line. And it's going to depend on the fatigue too. I mean, if the fatigue settles in, then yeah, maybe it's just a tie or maybe even a loss.
How about you, Cliff?
Final thoughts. I really, like I said, I think the storm is leaving us. But if you could pick 2 games to follow what we just went through, I think Charlotte is a good test. I'm not going to say they're the best in the Eastern Conference right now. I think that might end up actually being Philly. But they're certainly not the worst. They're not Toronto. They're not down at the bottom. So it's a good test. But like I said, it's time to show up, and Jose's alluded to it. We've got to unlock the magic up front, and we saw a little bit of it with Tigres, and I really feel like it's there. So we saw it's there. So they just have to make it happen. But most of all, I am not negative about this team. My blood type is B positive, so I'm a little biased. But we have been worse, folks. We were worse for 3 whole seasons. It drives me nuts. Days of our lives type drama that goes on after we lose a game like this, when there's mathematical reasons why we did. All you really needed to hear was that Pavel Buka was tight and fatigued, and then the team shut down. And Pat Noonan rarely gives such excuses about fatigue and legs and rest, but that was, I'd say, 30% of the press conference today and the one before. So it's a real thing. Players are not robots. They're not wind-up toys. They're human. So I respect that, and I respect this team. I respect Pat. I respect Albright. One thing we have to understand is the amount of money that is now injected into this team, is real. It's a real thing. Mm-hmm. And so you have to respect what Albright's done from that standpoint. He's gone all in. He's all in, Albright. And I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to ride or die with that guy.
Thank you, Cliff. And Kristi, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's far too early to panic. MLS season is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, we've got a lot of time to figure things out. The biggest thing for me that I would like to see is playing games 90 minutes plus. And that's not necessarily just a testament to the fitness of the players and being able to play shifts when needed. I think having a plan 90 minutes plus is key there too. So like I said, when you've got a player like Buka that needs to come off, you got to be able to adjust accurately. I don't want to see what happened 3 years ago, where just every single game we were ahead and then we give up a last minute goal to end in a tie. That happened so many games 3 years ago.
2022. Yes.
Yes. And it was like, as long as we don't start seeing that again, I'll be happy. I want to make sure that we're not losing steam, whether it comes to subs, fitness of players, game plans. I think that's really important to get nailed down now. But I think, like I said, we've got a couple more weeks to kind of get the kinks out of there. And I want to see continuous improvement on all those issues from all the games going on.
Thank you, Kristi. And my final thought is just more of I don't want to say philosophical or just devotional, but I just 5 years ago. So my son's birthday is tomorrow, and 5 years old. And 5 years ago, we were driving to the hospital with COVID, shutting everything down. The whole world was shutting down. So happy birthday, Charlie! But also, I just want to feel gratitude, right? That we're kind of able to do the things that we love. I think that experience really helped everyone understand, like, being able to go out on Saturdays and drink a beer with your friends, being able to hold a loved one or stuff like that, or watch a soccer match right down in Mexico. How amazing it is that we get these opportunities. So I'm going to stay positive. I may be bummed out about CONCACAF Champions Cup, and I may not be looking forward to what Charlotte might bring, but I'm happy I get the opportunity to do it, and I'm happy I get to do that with such wonderful people like you guys. So if you like tonight's show, please hit the like button. I know for the audio recording, just please hit that subscribe button on our podcast channels. It really helps us out. Share it on any of your social medias that you guys have, and we'll be back on Monday to see how right or wrong we were about Charlotte FC. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay. Good night.